What a gorgeous day in New York City, whether you're taking the bridges or the tunnels to anywhere you need to go. Plenty to do. Of course, there's Central Park. Lay out, read a book, and get some sun anywhere. Just a fantastic day. And tonight, we got a baseball game in Flushing at Citi Field where the Mets hope that home run apple goes up a few times for them. From the Citi Field in New York, it's the Florida Marlins taking on the New York Mets. And tonight's game is presented in HD by IOTV. Get your HD free with IOTV. Hi, everyone, and welcome just outside Citi Field. I'm outside the Jackie Robinson Rotunda with the Big Apple right behind me. And welcome to the broadcast tonight. I'm Kevin Burkhardt, Gary Cohen, and Ron Darling. They have the call. They'll be coming up in just a few short moments. So the Mets and Marlins play the rubber game of this three-game series tonight. Mets have not been very good in rubber games this year, just 5-12 in that decisive rubber game, trying to change that tonight. And the good news is they have an outstanding young pitcher on the mound trying to do so, and Jonathan Niese gets the call. 13 times this year, Jonathan Niese has started a game and allowed one run or less. He's been that good. His last 15 starts, an ERA of 2.70. He's been tremendous. He's got Josh Tolley catching him tonight as the Mets try to get a victory over the Fish. Meanwhile, for Florida, Anibal Sanchez. Remember him through that no-hitter back in 2006 and had plenty of injury issues since. You look at him, he had 26 starts combined the last 2 years, but this year 24 starts, and he's been pitching great. Just 6 earned runs in his last 5 starts. So a good pitching matchup tonight at Citi Field. Mets came back and won game 1 of the series. They try to come back and win game 2 of the series. It'd be nice if they can go out and get a lead early in this one. We come back, a special insight into Chip Hale, what Mets coaches do to prepare for a ball game. By AT&T Rethink Possible. By Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. By Verizon, the signal is yours, wielded to transmit anything you want. By the Rums of Puerto Rico, the rum capital of the world. And by Parts Authority, the future of auto parts. In the continuing effort to support research to find a cure, Stand Up to Cancer and MLB.com have partnered to create a unique opportunity for you to personally dedicate a virtual piece of Citi Field to someone touched by this disease. Go to MLB.com/standupstadiums. Join together to strike out cancer. We welcome you back outside Citi Field as we prepare for the Mets and the Marlins tonight, rubber game of this 3-game series. And, you know, coaches go through a lot to prepare for a game and also to kind of look back and see what can be done differently the next day. Take you back to game 1 of this series when a critical double play that could have been turned by the Mets was missed just by a hair. A couple moments later, Gabby Sanchez hit a 3-run home run off of R.A. Dickey. Those little things that could change a game. Now, the Mets went on to win that game, but still critical plays all the time. Well, I got a special look today. I sat down with one of the Mets' third base coaches and had a chance to really see what they do, how they prepare, and some of the things they look at. Here's my chat with Chip Hale.
I'm looking at the double play we didn't turn before the home run.
Right.
And because, you know, in the midst of a game, you know, you want to see, did he give him a good feed? Which, you know, the feed is fine. It's a little bit behind him out here. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, Tejada's so new at turning double plays. You want to see if he double clutched it. You could see he had a hard time getting the grip. And part of that was because where he grabbed it. See where his hands are?
Because it's too far up front.
It's too far
over here.
Yeah, and we want him to have the bag as protection. Mm-hmm. This is kind of how a lot of guys get hurt. People don't realize this, but when you have this situation, first and second, one out, nobody out, and we're trying to turn double play. Mm-hmm. In Atlanta, Jason Hayward was running right here.
Right, I remember that play.
Hayward could really run.
I actually asked you about the play the next day, actually.
And Ike was way back in this area, and Hayward was way out here, and he had free run at our middle infielders. But what ends up happening is now, and this thing, look how good job Ike does right here of sort of shadowing him and, you know, kind of hitting his glove and making, it was Bonifaci who's a real fast runner too. And he didn't get a great jump. So we knew that we had a good chance, see how fast he is, and he still had, you know, he had room to make double play. Hayward was right on top of, I think it was Louis.
It was Castillo.
Yeah. It was right on top of him. So if it wasn't a perfect feed from David, which it wasn't, he had no chance to even get an out. So this way we had to get, so you can see it here.
That's
pretty good. Yeah. You could see where the feed was a little bit behind him, and instead of him, you know, he reached for that ball. It would have been nice to see him hit and push off and go back a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But this is tough stuff. This is basically learning how to turn double plays under fire. I can stand there and throw stuff at him and roll at him myself in practice, but this is how he's going to get better.
Double play ball perhaps. Right to Tejada and on to first to double up Chris Johnson. 5-4-3, the Mets' second double play of the night.
All that thought goes into one play. More on Chip Hale and coach's preparation. We come back. First pitch, Mets and Marlins from New York in a minute.
Connor broadcast booth. First pitch of the night. John Deese to Cameron Maben is in for a call strike.
Hey there, Gary.
I'm good, Bronny. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm getting used to this open by Kevin. Book it.
They've been having a big series, 2 hits in each of the first 2 games. He has just 11 multiple hit games this year. 5 of the 11 have come against the Mets, including the last 2 nights. And he misses away 2-1.
The first 3 hitters in the Marlins lineup for the first 2 games, 15 hits. That's got to change.
Logan Morrison, who had a huge night last night on his 23rd birthday, waiting on deck. And then Hanley Ramirez for the Marlins. And his fastball is fouled off by Maben, 2-2. Here's your fourth starting lineup for the Marlins, exact same as last night when they beat the Mets 5-4. Maben, Morrison, and Ramirez, who had the big nights. Gabby Sanchez, who drives in runs every day. Stanton, who has struggled. 2-2 to Maben. Swing and a miss. He gets him with a cutter, and John Neese starts the night with a strikeout.
Well, this is classical Jonathan Neese. Sometimes it'll cut inside, sometimes it'll backdoor. Defensively, the Mets defense brought to you by Lexus, Pagan, Beltran, and Frank Gore. The last 3 nights you've seen them. Wright, Reyes, Castillo in there for Tejada, Davis, and Tolley, of course, catching every night.
So 1 out. Here's Logan Morrison. His 26th start since being called up. He was called up just a month ago tomorrow. And he has been a revelation for the Marlins, hitting line drives after line drives. And takes the cutter, 2-0. Morrison, a 3-hit game last night. One of the impressive things about Morrison so far, he's hitting .407 against left-handers. And that misses inside, 3-0.
But watching Morrison now, just a small glance, but seems to have a real good eye at the plate. And he's got a quick swing for a big player.
And he walks on 4 pitches, so Neese has been walking very few, just 1 walk total over his last 3 starts. Walks the second man to face him.
You know you're having a good year every time Jonathan Neese pitches. The opposing announcers always come in and go, what is this Jonathan Neese? What is he doing? And we were telling Tommy Hutton, the fine announcer for the Florida Marlins team, that Jonathan has been throwing his cutter and various other things. But you know you've made it when the other announcers are asking.
Here's Hanley Ramirez having a big series, 7 for 10 in the first 2 games, and he takes a strike. Hanley 4 for 5 last night. Moved back to the number 3 spot in last night's game by Edwin Rodriguez after starting for the better part of a month in the leadoff spot, and he celebrated his return to the 3-hole with a die job. Out to left center field, and Beltran easing back. Has room at the edge of the track to catch it for the second out. And back to first goes Morrison. I was surprised to hear from Hanley Ramirez after the game last night that he was actually going for blonde, but he messed up and wound up with those rust-colored locks.
Oh, that's what it is, rust-colored, because you know I have a little problem with the colors. So it doesn't matter what color it is; it doesn't look great.
It was a hotel room experiment.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Gone awry.
I guess. It's going to need a little professional help.
I wonder what that sink looks like.
Here's Dan Uggla, who's hitless in this series, 0 for 8. Neese has been spectacular in the first inning this year. Gets a first pitch strike. Uggla, 28 home runs. That's 4th in the National League. 80 runs batted in. That's 8th in the league, having arguably his best season. And he takes a letter high strike, and it's 0-2. The Marlins as a team have really ripped up left-handed starters. With their win last night with Pat Mish on the mound, the Marlins are now 26-12 when a lefty starts against them. And Uggla down on 3 pitches. Neese has 2 strikeouts in the opening inning. Mets come up in the bottom of the first against Sanchez. No score. pitcher. Luis Castillo goes in there at second base to replace the offensive slumping Ruben Tejada. David Wright homer last night, his 20th of the year, and he's rolling. Jose Reyes has had a rough first 2 games of this series, going 0 for 10 after a red-hot road trip. In fact, the top 3 hitters in the Mets order last night went 0 for 12. And Reyes takes it down from Anibal Sanchez, 2-0.
Well, he had an outstanding rookie year where he pitched a no-hitter in his 13th start, won 10 ball games that year. He's had some arm troubles coming back, but having a fine year this year. 10 wins, one of them a shutout.
Maybe the most important number on that ledger, the top one, starts, 24. It's the most starts he's ever made in a major league season, and this is his 5th year. So just staying healthy has been huge for Anibal Sanchez. Reyes pops one up into shallow center. Maben coming on. 1 away.
Well, you know, when you look at Reyes, so we'll go to the defense first. By Coors Light, Morrison, Maben, Stanton, no one over than 23 years old out there. Helms, Ramirez, Douglas, and Sanchez. Gabby Sanchez just ate up the Mets. And Brett Hayes, who's done a real nice job behind the plate, has gotten some important hits. Getting back to Reyes, I always know when he's a slump. I don't need to look at it in computers. Ball's in the air. Once the ball's in the air, you know he's struggling.
Here's Angel Pagan. Had a big first game of this series with 4 hits. Took an 0 for last night. Mets are facing Sanchez for the 3rd time this year. He pitched a terrific game against them back in the middle of May in Florida. 7 innings, 4 hits, a 7-2 win. Then 3 weeks later, the Mets beat him here at Citi Field. Went 5 2/3 in that game. Gave up 4 runs and 9 hits. A 4-3 Met win. 0-2 to Pagan. Carlos Beltran on deck. Pagan at .298 for the year. And he foul tips one. Hayes holds it. Second out of the inning. First strikeout for Sanchez.
Well, both pitchers are going upstairs to get the strikeout. Neese on Ugla, and here on Pagan by Sanchez. You can see the ball just beats him to that spot right on his wrist. I told you that the Marlins had 15 hits from their first 3 hitters in the first 2 games. Mets have had 6 hits, but 4 of those are from Pagan.
Here's Beltran 2 for 6 in this series with a couple of runs batted in, and he takes high ball 1. Well, last night the Marlin first 3 hitters were 9 for 15, while the Met first 3 hitters were 0 for 12, and yet the Mets were 1 hit away from winning that game. 1-1 to Beltran. Last night could have been huge for the Mets had they been able to get that 1 more hit, just because of the opportunity that was provided to them. Had they won, they would have been just 6 games out of the wild card and a chance to get to 5.5 today. Beltran has a 2-out hit, so the Mets have their first base runner as Carlos got on the breaking ball.
Well, Sanchez decides to throw a little backdoor breaking ball, but it doesn't break enough. Sits right there on the outside corner, and we've really seen when the ball's outside that Carlos has not been able to put too much mustard on it away, but able to pull that sharply through the hole.
So now here's David Wright, who homered last night in the 9th inning to get the Mets within a run. His 20th home run of the season. 5th time in his career he's had 20 or more home runs. Only 2 Mets have had more 20 home run seasons than David Wright. Darryl Strawberry had 8. Mike Piazza had 6. Howard Johnson had 5, as has David. Dave Kingman and Kevin McReynolds each had 4 20 home run seasons. And there's the home run group displayed in all their splendor.
I played with 3 of those guys. That's probably why I had any of the wins I had with the Mets. Outstanding, the straw man. I didn't know Piazza had 6.
Let's see. He came to the Mets during the '98 season.
Yeah. Just shows you how excellent he was, because he wasn't with the Mets. What? How many years? 8 years?
His last year with the Mets was 05. So he had 7 full seasons as a Met.
So he was great every year.
He was. Good way to put it.
That doesn't always happen.
David's been hitting the ball to center and to right center, and they're shading him that way. Sanchez ahead 0-2. And That's upstairs. A ball and 2 strikes.
Boy, 93 miles an hour. I haven't seen him throw that hard in a long time. You saw what Gary was talking about. Maven swung way over on the second base side in center field. Very deep, all of the outfielders.
David in this series has already had a triple to the gap in right center, and then that home run almost to dead center last night. And that's always a good sign for David.
And sure, people are asking at home, well, if that's a good sign, what does he always do then? I think Jerry was trying to address that to you today, Gary.
Well, he was talking about how hard it is for David to get that front foot down in time to be able to take the ball to right center. But I think it's also a mental approach.
Yeah.
I think, and he addressed that too. He said sometimes if you just miss a ball, then maybe the next time you try and do a little too much, your shoulders hoping your swing gets big, and not necessarily trying to do that, but that's the kind of consistency you strive for. And David, it's a rocket to deep left field. Back goes Morrison looking up, and it's out of here! Off the facing the second deck. David Wright homers for the second straight night, a 2-run shot. Number 21 for David Wright, and it's 2-0 New York.
There's no lukewarm with Wright. He's either struggling or is red hot, and he's red hot right now. I think what that home run did last night gave him the confidence. If he squares the ball, it doesn't matter that they're playing at Citi Field, and he squares one up here. It's a ball inside and down, right in his power area. Most teams have been pitching him away. He's gotten up on the plate. He stayed just as quick, and when he centers the baseball, Citi Field is not an option.
For every home run hit by David Wright at Citi Field this season, Stuart Rohr and Kinray's Home Runs for Charity program will donate $5,000 to the David Wright Foundation. Kinray has donated $40,000 so far in 2010. So the Mets off to a fast start against Sanchez, who has not been susceptible to the long ball this year. In fact, that's only the 7th home run that he's given up this season.
Key, get that front foot down. It's already locked in. Heel down. Ball's not there. That means you're in a complete power mode, using your whole body and your arms, turning that right hand over. Game over.
0-2 to Ike Davis. Ike is 2 for 8 in this series. Last night came up with his first major league triple. I guess just about anybody who splits the gap to right center field in this ballpark is going to get 3 bases. Maybe not everybody.
Benji Molina has a triple this year.
He does. Fenway Park. Not a triples haven. And Ike floats one down the right field line, and that's going to fall for a base hit. Stanton plays it in, and the Mets have their 3rd straight 2-out hit. This one coming on a 0-2 pitch.
Well, you saw Sanchez shaking his head, but this curveball on an 0-2 pitch, even though it's in, it's up. That's a ball you want to bounce in there. So even though you're shaking your head, it's a mistake by the pitcher. I mean, I made a million of them. That ball's got to be bouncing down and in.
Randy St. Clair looking out at his pitcher, who's been red hot since the All-Star break. 7 scoreless innings against Houston his last start, but off to a rough beginning tonight. Here's Jeff Francoeur pulling one over the bag, and a great stop by Helms, but he has no play, and Francoeur has an infield hit. Well, Helms took a double away and might have saved a run with that stop.
Boy, this is Brooks Robinson-like getting to the line. Fully laid out, fully off the ground. And the hard landing, he was thinking he was going to have a chance at second base with Ike running. He thought that was his only chance. And I think he's correct. How quick this ball is down the line. Gets it, spins, doesn't have a play, and by that time, Francoeur is going to be safe also.
Francoeur, who had been 0 for 17, heading into his 7th inning at bat last night, now has hits in his last 3 at bats. 4 straight 2-out hits for the Mets, and now Josh Thole will try and cash in. Josh is 7 for 16 over his last 5 games. Batting average up to .305 for the year. And Josh bounces one to Dan Uggla. And the force play ends the inning. But the Mets off to a good start thanks to the power bat of David Wright. David homering in back-to-back games for the third time this year. A two-run shot, his 21st of the year. John has had 4 straight starts in which he's allowed only 1 run.
7 innings, 3 times. 5 innings in his last game, but that's not his fault.
No.
Rain out.
Only 5 innings to pitch.
That's right.
Gabby Sanchez takes a strike. Sanchez on quite a roll right now. 13 RBIs in his last 6 games, including 2 last night on a pair of sacrifice flies. Sanchez now with 15 homers and 68 RBIs in his rookie season. And he drives one to center field. It'll stay up for Beltran. 1 away. Now the Mets getting on the board in the first inning tonight on David Wright's home run, and that has certainly been a product for victory.
You'll find that most teams, of course, are more than 500, but that's a very good record when they score first. And conversely, their record when they don't score first is equally 180-degree change.
Well, what it tells you is that their starting pitching has been outstanding, and I think, we know that without seeing that number as Mike Stanton takes a strike. But I'll tell you something that I saw in the league stats today that was stunning to me. The Mets staff ERA after last night is now better than the Giants. How about that?
And the Giants are always considered that team that people look at to rise to.
Well, the Giants have been struggling with their pitching and all of a sudden have come alive offensively lately. But the Mets pitching has just gotten better and better as the years gone along. You started out with John Maine and Oliver Perez struggling in the rotation. Replaced them with R.A. Dickey and then for a while with Takahashi. Nice has blossomed. Pelfrey has come back after a rough stretch, and Santana's been there all year, and it's just been what it's done as Stanton goes down on strikes, 3rd strikeout for Nice, is it's given the Mets a chance to win virtually every day.
Exactly. And just like the game last night, they were in it the entire way. Nice, classic, rips that glove right to his chest, which kind of gets that front shoulder going, and that's why he can get the strikeout on that ball upstairs. Right under it. Stanton is a low ball hitter, very much like David Wright.
And he's really struggling right now. Just 1 for his last 29. 2 out for Wes Helms. And Helms takes a strike. Helms having a good series with the bat. 3 for 7. Now playing third base every day with Jorge Cantu. Now in Texas. And the curveball drops in for a strike. And Nice settling in. It's 0-2. You see the Mets now 4th in the league in ERA and moving up It's pretty select company there with San Diego, St. Louis, and Atlanta, teams that are acknowledged to have some of the best staffs in the league.
Well, you know what's impressive is 3 of the starters' ERAs under 2.75 in August. So that means that the Mets pitching is getting stronger as they go along, and that's something that's pretty impressive, especially when you have a rookie like Jonathan Neese.
And R.A. Dickey, with his performance in this series, even though he didn't pitch well, got enough innings to qualify for the league leaders. Dickey is now 7th in the National League in earned run average.
And, you know, we hear a lot of talk of trying to maybe think about reducing Jonathan Neese's innings, not from his manager. Jerry Manuel said, no, I haven't given any thought to it. I need him in there every 5th day.
Helms just gets a piece of it. Well, part of the argument is because he missed time because of injury last year, and so he only threw 120 innings, combined majors and minors. Well, 2 years ago, he was, up in the 160 range. So,
and don't forget, he missed 3 starts this year on the DL. So you add those 3 starts on, maybe you think about it. Those 3 starts now he has back for September.
That's the rest he needs, right? Here's the 1-2. Helms takes high. Well, Neese, since coming back from the injury, which he suffered in Florida back on the 16th of May, he's made 15 starts, 7-3, 2.70 over those 15 starts. And it's very, very impressive for a rookie pitcher. That's half a season. Breaking ball struck him out. Back-to-back strikeouts for Neese to finish the second. He's got 4 in the first 2 frames. Hot Astros begins tomorrow night at 7:10 p.m. Get the best seats direct from the Mets at Mets.com or call 718-507-TIXX. The Astros fresh off a 4-game sweep in Philadelphia, culminating with a 5-1 win behind Wandy Rodriguez today. Imagine that. Luis Castillo leads off the home second inning and takes ball 1.
Wandy Rodriguez is one of the more underrated pitchers. Had a fine season last year. Look at his 1 loss. It doesn't look great this year, but Houston hasn't played very well until of recent.
Well, they're everyday players are not great. I mean, once you get past Hunter Pence and Carlos Lee, but their pitching has been outstanding. And Jay Happ has really done a great job for them. Castillo running up as though to bunt, and no offer, and it's 3-0. And tomorrow night, the first game of that series, Nelson Figueroa back to New York to take on the Mets. Matched up against Mike Pelfrey. And Castillo takes wide ball 4. So Sanchez walks Castillo on 4 pitches to start the second inning. As your National League wild card, the Mets did not make it into the big boy standings. relegated to the bottom because the Marlins passed them last night. But the Phillies lost today. The Giants are off, so a Met win, and they would be 6.5 out at the end of the day.
Get the 5, Gary. We're talking.
That's what we've been talking about. Here's Nice, 6 hits, 3 sacrifices this year, and he takes a strike. But the Mets have got to take advantage of their opportunities. I mean, if you're going to make the kind of semi-miracle run that it would take, you got to win a game like Sunday when they lose 2-1 with Santana. You got to win a game like last night when the winning run was on second base in the 9th inning. Makes it tough to do if you don't get those games.
Well, the Mets have had those games all season long, but now they have to win those because the collateral good feeling you get when you start to put those games together. I know I've been on those teams. You say it doesn't matter who's up. Someone's going to get the hit.
Close play and Castillo back. But the reality is the Mets in close games this year, games decided by 1 and 2 runs, if you look at the play at first, they are 28 and 43. And that, you do that, and that's why you're at 500 instead of 10 over.
Right. It's that and the inability to this point to play a little better on the road. That has been a problem.
Well, they've got, when they finish off this homestand with 3 with the Astros, they've got a very lengthy road trip coming up. Nice drops one down. That will advance the runner. Sanchez throws to Uglo. 1-4 on the sacrifice, moving Castillo to second.
Well, nice job by Jonathan. See, that bat is in front of the plate. That's always the key to keep it fair and deaden it just enough. A nice job by Castillo. He got such a big jump on first base. No chance for a play at second.
So runner in scoring position for Reyes, still looking for his first hit in this series. Flied out to center his first time up. That's put together 4 straight 2-out hits in the first, a leadoff walk in the second. And now Reyes takes the breaking ball wide for ball 1. This is a pitcher Jose has had trouble with. He's just 3 for 20 against Anibal Sanchez. Mets have seen Sanchez both good and bad over the last few years, but it's kind of hard to judge because he's had so many physical ailments. Last year had 2 stints on the DL because of his shoulder. He had Tommy John surgery earlier in his pre-major league career.
Reyes lines one into right field for a base hit. Castillo will be held at third as Stanton gets to it quickly.
So the Mets have runners at the corners with 1 out. So Reyes picks up his first hit in the series.
Well, not the best swing for Jose, but he keeps the bat in the strike zone a long time. Fooled, but able almost to flick that ball into right field. And Stanton, all season long, 5 assists. Very strong arm. Louis got a nice jump, makes the turn, but there's nowhere for him to go. Ball 1 hop to the right fielder.
And with 1 out, no sense taking a chance with Pagan and Beltran coming up. Angel struck out his first time up. First pitch swinging, fouls it off. Angel has gotten a runner in from third with less than 2 out 13 of 21 times this year, 62%. So that's above the league average. And you see his numbers with runners in scoring position. And now some concern about Reyes. He reached down to flick that ball into right field. And remember the oblique earlier this year. Don't know if that's the issue or something else that Ray Ramirez is coming out to ask about.
That's the one thing about being a player. You have so many eyes on you. Watch how he goes down after this ball. He's exposed that right side, but also flicks that left hand over. And we've seen Hanley Ramirez the last couple games having his wrist problems.
No obvious grimace there from Reyes.
Okay, this side is exposed, the right side, and just kind of flicks it over.
Ray Ramirez and Jerry Manuel and Jose Reyes all discussing whatever it is.
The first time Jerry ever managed a game with the New York Mets, he took Reyes out, and he's taking him out again.
And this time a much less intense reaction from Jose. Remember that game in Anaheim? Reyes was just incensed with the idea that he was going to have to come out. But he'll go down to the clubhouse, presumably. Well, maybe not. And we'll wait and see what it is. And Ruben Tejada will run and stay in to play shortstop. So Reyes forced to leave the game after snapping an 0 for 12 streak with a base hit. And at this point, there's no sense speculating because there's no clear sense of what it was. 0-1 to Pagan, and Tejada forced to dive right back in. Welcome to the ballgame, Ruben.
Yeah, it could be a myriad of things, so we'll just wait till.
We'll find out as soon as we can exactly what has befallen Reyes. He's out of the game. Mets looking to add to the 2-0 lead. First and third, one out. And Pagan fouls it off, and Sanchez ahead 0-2. The fact that he's not leaving the dugout, I guess it's a good sign that it's nothing serious that needs to be checked out.
And Pagan drives one to the gap in right center field. Stanton will get it. Cuts it off deep. Castillo is in. Tejada to third. Pagan with an RBI double. 3-0 New York. Pagan coming through behind in the count. His 55th run batted in.
Nice hitting by Angel. Again, that fastball that comes back over the middle of the plate. It's one he wants to start inside and jam the hitter. But Pagan with those quick hands. And the runners do the correct job. Tejada halfway. He can only go to third because it was a nice job by Stanton getting that ball, cutting it off and getting it in.
So a run is in, 2 in scoring position. The infield back for Beltran. And he takes high for ball 1.
Well, the IOTV pitch differential, you're trying to get the ball. If you miss in. He missed over the plate, and it cost him.
How about Edwin Rodriguez playing the infield back here, already down 3-0?
It's an unusual move, and a move that you usually don't see because the game is in the balance. You'd hate to give up the 4th run on a simple ground ball.
And with Jonathan Neese pitching so well these days on the other side, if you're Edwin Rodriguez, I can't believe you want a chance falling behind too much further. 2-0 to Carlos. Swing and a miss with a good fastball, 2-1.
Well, this goes back to the unknown quality of Jonathan Neese. People just don't know what kind of great year he's had. Historical kind of left-handed rookie year for Jonathan Neese.
Marlins have faced him 3 times before, but he keeps getting better and better. Beltran has a good rip. He's had better swings over the last few days.
Especially from the left side. Right side, not worried at all. He really looks comfortable. He is talked about. He just wants to get his legs underneath him from that left side. And it seems like he's getting a little more comfortable here now, well into his 35th game.
And when he's good, he loves that ball up from the left side. Now the infield comes in with 2 strikes.
And Beltran rips one right into the glove of Sanchez. And back to second for the double play. Pagan couldn't get back. He gets doubled off. And the inning is over. Pagan drives in a run. But Sanchez snags the liner and turns it
available in HD, presented by IOTV. And if you're not near a TV, listen to every Mets game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. The Astros in tomorrow night with Mike Pelfrey against Nelson Figueroa. After that series, the Mets go to Atlanta, Chicago, and Washington. A 10-game road trip, their second to last road trip of the season. Ruben Tejada, after pinch running for the injured Reyes, comes in to play shortstop. Brett Hayes leads off for the Marlins in the third. John Neese with a 3-0 lead. And Hayes takes wide for ball one. Brett Hayes making his 17th start for the Marlins. Who began the year with the catching tandem of John Baker and Ronnie Polino. Now it's Brett Hayes and Brad Davis.
Well, think about it this way. With the injuries and, of course, the suspension to the catchers, Hayes gets the start. Morrison in left field, if it wasn't for the pie throwing incident for Chris Coughlin that hurt his knee, Morrison might not be in the big leagues.
Popped it up. Castillo out. Frank Core in. Frank Core with the call. One out. Live out your Mets fantasy. Suit up with Mets legends and take to the field in the Mets fantasy camp this January in Port St. Lucie. Get to the phone at 718-565-4376 or visit Mets.com/fantasy camp today. You ever done one of those fantasy camps?
I have done one in a strange way. Sanibel Sanchez hits. The Oakland team had a fantasy camp. I was in Arizona just for a couple days with my family. Went over to visit some of the older players, and they asked me to pitch in the game. It was the first time I had thrown a pitch at all in 6 years. So I throw, and of course, no one can hit. And get to this one guy that had been hit 14 times in camp. So I kiddingly throw the first ball 6 inches over his head, but hard. He doesn't move. I find out he can't really see very well. That's why he's been hit 14 times. He just didn't tell anybody. Felt so awful.
Sanchez strikes out on a pitch in the dirt. And that was your first and last?
First and last.
Neese with 5 strikeouts, first time through the batting order. That's the second out of the inning.
And the curveball is working, right, for Neese? All I know is that the people I've talked to that go to these fantasy camps, they just love it.
Time of their lives,
love it.
All say. There's a lot of time spent in the trainer's room, and
other rooms.
A few hours spent in the tavern.
Well, that's good too.
But the time on the field, they say that the camaraderie is unbelievable, both with the campers and the guys who go to the fantasy camps. The former players, they love it too.
They totally get into it. The former players, they love being the coaches and being able to tell these guys what to do and. It's really a fun time for those guys.
Cameron Maybin struck out to open the ball game. Off the fist of foul ball. You mentioned Neese and his curveball tonight. It's a very windy night. Does that have any impact at all on a curveball pitcher?
On the left-handed curveball pitcher today, because the wind's blowing from left to right. So the wind's working against his curveball, which is a good thing, because that make that curveball break a little sharper. That's why it's been smaller, sharper, and straight down.
The way that wind is blowing tonight, left to right, makes the home run that David Wright hit even more impressive.
You had a distance on that, didn't you?
425 off the facing of the second deck in left field. Without that wind, who knows how far it might have gone. Here's the 1-2. In tight. As he ran that fastball in on Maybin, 2-2. Logan Morrison would be next. In there for a call, strike 3. Got him looking at a rare changeup. 6 strikeouts through the first 3 innings for John Neese. 3-0 New York. Josh Hamilton hit his 30th home run last night. Vladimir Guerrero hit the go-ahead home run. Texas wins their 4th straight, beating the Twins. This afternoon, the Dodgers got 5 2/3 hitless innings out of their bullpen to beat the Brewers and sweep that series. And the Astros sweep 4 from the Phillies. Wandy Rodriguez, 7 innings, 5 hits today as the Astros win 5-1 in Philadelphia.
And I watched the at-bat for Ramirez in those first 2 games. He is locked in again.
David Wright hit a long home run his first time up.
I mean, this fastball trying to get in. He doesn't. And this is no doubt about it. David, the last 2 nights, has proven to everyone, but even more importantly to himself, he can make this ballpark look very small when he centers the baseball. That's the kind of power that he's got.
He's homered in each of his last 2 at-bats. 9th inning last night, 1st inning today. And Sanchez being careful. Falls behind 3-1.
Hands high.
In tight, ball 4, and Wright is on with a leadoff walk. 2nd straight inning that Sanchez has walked the leadoff batter, and that at bat it didn't look like he wanted anything to do with David Wright.
Good call, Gary.
Now Ike Davis, who floated a single down the right field line his first time up. Ike is now hitting 6 straight games. He's beginning to put together a resurgence. Really, since the series in Pittsburgh began on Friday night, all of a sudden the Mets look like a different offensive team. It's just a week. The question is, can they sustain that for the last 5 weeks?
Well, there's been a lot of experimentation, and I know that one of the hardest things to do is to mix in younger players with whoever you think your core is. And listen, there's been some lack of production from some of the players that they thought they would get more production from. Jason Bay's injury has compounded that. But I think the important thing, if I were managing, is you need to throw about the same guys out there every day and go get them. You know, let's figure it out.
And I think that's what Jerry decided to do with Frank Gore.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to ride him. My best chance to win is to ride that guy.
And also the thing about Frenchie is that when he does get hot, he seems to lift the team in some way. His personality just lifts the team. And they're hoping he's hot. 5-week hot.
That's all you need. Makes up for a lot of sins. I remember 1973. The Mets were in last place on the 30th of August. That's when you had 6-team divisions. So they had to pass 5 teams from August 30th to the end of the year. And they did. And they were a terrible team most of that season. But you got to believe.
I think in 80s, yeah, exactly. In 87, I think I went 12 or 13 straight no decisions in a row. Something remarkable. And was having just a horrible year. But, you know, in 5, 6, 7 weeks made up for it. You can do it.
Next time, protect your thumb.
Yeah, that's right. What was I thinking? Vince Coleman? There's no chance of him at first base. That's the dumb play.
3-2 to Davis. We'll see if Wright is running. Davis has been striking out less lately. David runs, and Ike takes inside ball 4, and the Mets have the first 2 men on in the 3rd. And there's the 3rd walk given up by Anibal Sanchez, who is really struggling tonight. This is a guy who in 7 starts since the All-Star break has an ERA of an even 2. But certainly not on his game tonight. Randy St. Clair out for a word.
I've always felt, though, for me, when I watch Sanchez, I don't know if you agree, Gary, you've seen him a lot, too. And again, it's hard to judge because of his injury. But I've always thought that Sanchez is one of those guys that really has to have 3 of his 4 pitches working for him to be successful. He throws hard, but not hard enough. His breaking stuff is very good, but he's got to have all 3 out of the 4 working for him to be successful. I think he's struggling with a couple tonight.
Maybe compare him to a guy like Ricky Nolasco for the Marlins, who if he gets his curveball over, he's going to have a good night.
Absolutely, and I think Sanchez is in that same school as Nolasco.
So here's Frank Gore. In a shot over the 3rd base bag, Helms made a remarkable diving stop, but Frank Gore wound up with an infield hit his first time up. And Frenchie bounces one toward the middle with a diving pass. Dug
Ugla base hit. Here's White around third, heading home. Maben's throw sails into the plate too late. Jeff Francoeur with his fourth straight hit, an RBI single, and it's 4-0 New York.
Well, ever since he's got out of the slump, he's hitting the ball the other way. He had 2 sac flies in the first game, and up the middle. Up the middle's always been the key for Frenchie, and he has been outstanding. Nice play. Full body extension there by Ugla.
Francoeur drives in his 53rd run. The Mets cash the leadoff walk to right. Still nobody out, and Josh Thole looking to put the hammer down. Thole hit into a fielder's choice his first time, and he's hit by the pitch. In fact, it was a double hit. It got Thole, and it also got the catcher, Brett Hayes. And now the Mets have the bases loaded with nobody out.
This ball came inside. It's a little slider, and it hits Thole right in the tricep, and then catches Hayes, of course.
5th batter that Sanchez has hit this year. So 2 walks, a seeing eye single, and a hit batsman. The Mets have a run in and a chance for a whole lot more, but the 8 and 9 hitters coming up. Castillo drew a walk and scored a run his first time up. And the Marlin bullpen just now starting to go to work.
Which is very interesting. Andrew Miller gets up, who was up late last night's game. It's almost like Edwin Rodriguez saying to his pitcher, you get out of your own trouble for a change.
1-1 to Castillo with Nice on deck. Louis making his first start since last Thursday in Houston. Davis, Francoeur, and Thole the base runners with nobody out. Mets already have 7 hits, 3 walks, and a hit batsman against Sanchez through the first 16 hitters. Castillo floats one into shallow left, and Morrison is positioned well. That's the first out, and nobody moving. 1 away. So now John Nice will bat with the bases loaded. Nice sacrificed his first time up. 1 career run batted in for John Nice in 55 career at bats. The word on Jose Reyes, he re-aggravated his right oblique strain. It's mild, but he'll be held out of baseball activities till he's pain-free. And that is really a blow for this team right now.
Big time.
They don't need a reoccurrence of that injury, which, you know, kept him out for a relatively brief period of time, but really cost him even more than that when he tried to come back the first time. And ironically, the first time that he heard it was also against the Marlins down in Puerto Rico in June.
It's not a dagger, but it's close. Awful.
0-2 to Nice, inside and low. So a right oblique strain aggravated for Jose Reyes. Remember the first time he tried to come back and bat right-handed only against right-hand pitching? And that didn't work out. Nice takes a call, 3rd strike, and that's the 2nd out of the inning. 2nd strikeout for Sanchez. So now instead of Reyes coming up with 2 out of the bases loaded, it's Ruben Tejada.
And the reason he batted right-handed was to get away from those awkward left-handed swings, and that's exactly what it was. What a better time. Tejada, who was supposed to get a couple days off to get fresh, he got an inning off. No better time than right now. Bases loaded, a couple outs. He's been brought into the game for him to get a knock.
0 for his last 12, 1 for his last 41. Bases loaded, 2 out. And he fouls the first pitch straight down. Bases loaded has hardly been a panacea for the Mets this year. They came into the night as a team hitting 198 with the bases loaded. They've already had 2 fruitless at bats here and still looking for their first grand slam in almost 13 months.
And whatever your team number is hitting, you're supposed to hit better with the bases loaded.
Slow ground ball, and in comes Helms. Makes the running toss. In time. Very close play. Helms had trouble making the transfer. Throws out to Tejada. Jerry Manuel out to argue. But the Mets settle for just 1 run in the 3rd and lead 4-0.
Calls on routine plays at first base, and here was another one that cost the Mets at least a run. This one by Bill Miller. I mean, what else can you say?
There's nothing to say. You got to get those calls right. Once Helms double clutched, it was almost an automatic. Could have called it without any replay. Saw it from here.
Logan Morrison's been the only base runner for the Marlins tonight. He walked with 1 out in the first. And I hate to beat a dead horse on the umpiring things. I mean, umpires are under greater scrutiny than ever. There are more replays than ever. But the plays that they should get wrong the least are the plays at first base.
The sound plays.
Because they have not only their eyes, but their ears. The sound of the ball against a mitt is different from the sound of a foot against the bag. And umpires have said for years that that's how they use their judgment. And how that's changed so that now these calls get blown more than ever before, I don't understand.
Umpire told me once, if the thud comes before the snatch, then he's safe. Snatch before the thud gives you an out.
Hanley Ramirez on deck, and then Dan Uggla in the 4th. Well, Nice will try and make it moot. He's off to a good start tonight. Hasn't allowed a hit over the first 3 innings. And he has struck out 6. This is a guy who's never struck out more than 8 in a game in his career.
Big pitch here. 3-2, leadoff hitter.
And Morrison lines a base hit. Boy, is he impressive. First hit of the game for the Marlins. And Morrison heads for second with a stand-up double. 9th double in his first 102 major league at-bats for Logan Morrison.
Never know what events will transpire to get you in the big leagues. Coughlin doesn't throw a pie in someone's face and ruin his knee. Morrison's not in the big leagues.
Well, you know what the Marlins are planning for next year? They're talking about moving Coughlin to third base.
That's right.
Of course, Coughlin was an infielder before the Marlins shoehorned him into the outfield last year, and they've done the same with Morrison, who's been a first baseman until now. But his path now blocked by Gabby Sanchez. So here's Ramirez, who fly deep to center his first time up. And Hanley takes high for ball 1. Ramirez 7 for 11 in this series.
And a drive to deep left field. Pagan goes back and watches it go. A line drive, 2-run homer for Hanley Ramirez. His 17th of the year, and the Met lead is cut in half. It's now 4-2. What a bullet.
This is why managers argue calls when your team's winning 4-0. There's a credo in baseball and amongst managers and players that a blown call the next inning, watch out, because the team is going to come right back at you, and Ramirez does with this high cutter that stays in the middle of the plate, that big leg kick, and I'm telling you, I haven't seen a home run here yet hit at Citi Field that was a line drive like this. And this is one of those become an old wives' tale where the third baseman jumped for that ball. That guy in the green hat.
Bale. Still a lot of juice on that ball as it left the ballpark.
Look at the ILTV pitch differential. Wanted that down and away. And he's a great right-handed hitter.
1-2 to Uggla, who struck out his first time up. Still looking for his first hit in this series. Must be the hair.
He can hit whatever the color hair is, I'll tell you that. If you have hair like that, you better hit.
Hey, he had 4 hits last night with that hair and a 2-run homer tonight. I don't think he's changing anytime soon. Uggla takes the curveball low and away. 2-2. So Nice, who fairly sailed through the first 3 innings, greeted rudely here in the 4th. And Uggla pulls the curveball foul.
Ken, I think it's worth mentioning, Barajas has been sent to Los Angeles. Blanco's the backup catcher. Tolle, who's caught a lot of Jonathan Nice before he got the cutter. This throws way more curveballs, but Tolle is the catcher.
Fastball hit out to center. An easy play for Beltran. And Uggla retired. That's the first out of the inning. So you think it's because he knew Nice when he was more of a curveball pitcher that Tolle goes back to that pitch more?
He knows that Tolle's curveball is a good pitch. You know, he knows the history of that pitch. He knows that it can strike out people. So he has confidence in it, maybe even more confidence than Jonathan has, who has gone to the cutter more often than not.
And with Barajas and Blanco, they met Nice this spring when he was working on the cutter more than anything else.
And the cutter's working. Why change anything? But Tolle wants the whole package. That's a good thing.
Sanchez lined out to center field his first time up. Gabby Sanchez has 22 hits against the Mets this year. That's more than anybody in the majors. The most hits ever in a season against the Mets, 1963. The great Cardinals center fielder Curt Flood had 32 hits against the Mets.
You know, it's hard to describe because of the career that Curt has. As Gabby Sanchez grounds to short.
Played by Tejada for the second out.
He better call him out.
He owes Tejada at least one.
But Ruben, whose natural position is shortstop, makes a fine play. It's hard to put in perspective because of the career that Curt had. And, of course, he's known for the court case that changed baseball.
Challenge to the reserve clause.
But people who saw him play a lot only rave about the way he played center field.
And the irony, of course, is that on the biggest stage, his misplay in the 1968 World Series might have cost the Cardinals the series that year.
Came in just a bit and then had to go back and miss the line drive.
But, you know, you go back to the 1966 World Series, and Willie Davis, who was one of the great center fielders, made 3 errors in 1 inning against the Orioles. So sometimes those things happen even to the best. Here's the 2-0 and a pop-up right near the mound. Who's going to grab it? Guy with the biggest glove. Side retired. The Marlins get going on one very hard swing by one very good hitter. To a homer for Ramirez. Angel Pagan leads off the last of the 4th inning. Bluffs a bunt, takes ball 1. Angel drove in a run with a 2nd inning double. That's with 4 runs and 7 hits over the first 3 innings against Donovan Sanchez. Pagan, Beltran, and right for the Mets in the 4th. And a curveball in for a strike, 1-1. Mets have lost a player and an argument already tonight. Reyes going down with an aggravation of his oblique muscle. And the Mets getting a bad call on a play at first that cost them at least a run in the last inning. And they lead 4-2. Sanchez really having trouble with his command behind 3-1.
You can really judge how he's pitching with his command of his fastball. That is the big thing for Sanchez. If he is commanding that fastball, like most pitchers, he can start going out of the strike zone with that good breaking stuff.
He's walked the leadoff hitter each of the last 2 innings. Pagan takes one the other way, and that'll go foul. 3-2. Mets have had 19 batters in this game. 11 have reached base.
It's good hitting by Pagan. Now that pitch is definitely ball 4, but it's too close to take. Foul it off. Live to get another pitch.
And Pagan pulls one just foul. We mentioned earlier Sanchez has made more starts and pitched more innings this year than he ever has before in the major leagues. But you got a guy at the plate also who's a few years older than Sanchez, who's had his most extensive major league time this year in Pagan. So here you are getting deep into the season, and Angels kind of in uncharted territory. Ball 4, and so for the 3rd straight inning, Sanchez has walked the leadoff hitter. That's a formula for failure. Don't miss your chance to bid on a night with the SNY Mets broadcast team. You and a guest could have dinner with those guys. Then catch the Mets Pirates game in the SNY Suite at Citi Field on Wednesday, September 15th. All proceeds benefit the high school basketball teams scheduled to play in the 2011 SNY Invitational. Go to sny.tv/charity auction and bid today. What's for dinner?
What I find hilarious, it'll be the first dinner that we've been to together all season long. When you think about it, right? Because, you know, I'm either on the road or Keith's on the road. It's very rare that we're all together.
Double play ball right at Uggla. And Ramirez with the turn to double up Beltran. 2 out and nobody on. Second double play hit into by Beltran, both on hard hit balls. And so David Wright will bat with 2 out and nobody on.
It'd be interesting, that 3-2 pitch to Wright rushed him inside. It'd be interesting if the kind of hot streak Wright is on, the authority with which he's hitting the baseball. It'd be interesting to see if Sanchez tries to throw another one inside.
David hit a 2-run homer off the facing of the second deck in left field in the first inning. Then he walked and scored, leading off in the 3rd. And the curveball wide. Ball 1. Keeping it away. Well, David already has more than twice as many home runs as he had last year. Slugging percentage higher. RBIs already outstripped last year. And he lines it on the base hit. Maben hustles over to cut it off, learning his lesson. And Wright stops at first base with a 2-out single. So David is 2 for 2. Now 6 for 11 in this series.
Well, when you watch Wright hit, watch that front heel. Toe tap, heels on the ground, ball not there. So it's completely in a loaded position to deliver the bat to the ball. That is as good as it gets, people. That's called locked in.
Now Ike Davis has been on base twice, a single and a walk. And another first pitch ball from Sanchez. So Ike's now hitting 6 straight games. Things looking up for him. Had a good turn at bat to work out the walk his last time up.
You know, we've been talking about the wind hurting the right-handed hitters, but we haven't talked about one of these left-handed sluggers like Davis getting the ball up in the wind towards right field porch.
Curveball misses, 2-1. Been a while since Ike hit one, but when he hits them, they usually go a long, long way. He hit a loud foul ball in Pittsburgh last weekend that almost left the ballpark. Ike is yet to homer in the month of August. His last home run came July the 29th against the Cardinals.
He's got a shot to be a hero. That's why you bring your glove. Got to bring your glove.
A little pearl slipping away.
My favorite part of it, kind of how my humor goes, when they boo him after they drop it. Love it.
I think you like to share. 2-2 to Davis. And it's up and away, ball 3. So another quality turn at bat here for Ike. Working it full. That'll get right in motion with 3-2 and 2 down with Frank Cora on deck. Sanchez playing behind right at first base. And Ike swings and misses, and Sanchez strikes him out. His third of the night. Mets lead 1 after 4, 4-2 New York. Lower third of the order coming up for the Marlins. Some of the crowd here at Citi Field decked out in their Mets regalia. John Deese had 3 easy innings, then gave up a 2-run homer to Hanley Ramirez in the 4th. Now taking on the lower third of the order, Helms, Hayes, and Sanchez in the top of the 5th. And the curveball misses for ball 1. Helms struck out his first time up. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
You know, guys, last time we saw the Marlins, they looked a little different. They had Jorge Cantu and Cody Ross, and a little different clubhouse. Both those guys are gone. Ross was extremely popular in that clubhouse. And I asked Wes Helms, you know, really one of the leaders of this team, if not the leader of the team, and what that meant to him. He said, well, to me, it's obvious. Those are 2 guys that they felt that were going to be too expensive for them next year. And I think for me, it signals that they want younger guys up here to get experience and get better. and be good by the time the Marlins move into the new ballpark in 2012. He said, now, in one sense, I'm a guy who's a veteran, been around a long time. I want to win the World Series. I want to win. On the other sense, though, I do like the other part of that, and that is, look, the Marlins came to Wes Helms. They gave him a 1-year extension. They told him they want him to be all over these guys, to be that guy to lead these guys and show them how to play this game, and he draws a walk. And he said, you know what, I do like that part of it. As much as I want to win at this stage of my career, an example is in the spring, Gabby Sanchez kind of followed me around everywhere, and I told him some of the things I do for preparation and what I do for infield and things like that. And it's really gratifying to me to see him succeed at this level. He said, I don't think of myself as a coach. My wife calls me a coach. But, it's kind of the two sides of the story for the veteran Helms and how this clubhouse has gotten a little different the last few weeks, guys.
There's no question that Wes Helms keeps getting older while his teammates keep getting younger.
Yes.
But, the part of that story about Cody Ross being too expensive, Jorge Cantu being too expensive, that whole story got a lot more complicated this week for the Florida Marlins.
Slow ground ball. Tejada will have to hurry. Out at second. Castillo to first. Not in time. Helms erased on the force play. Hayes beats the wrap at first.
Good call there at first. Just took too long to develop. Tejada couldn't get it out of his glove. Nice turn by Louis. But Hayes has pretty good speed for a catcher, and you can see he's on the base. So thud before the snatch.
That was about the same margin by which Tejada beat it, and he was called out. So 1 out and 1 out. Here's Sanchez. But talking about the Marlins and the revelations this week, the clubs like the Marlins and the Pirates, who have been taking revenue sharing money and who have been pleading poverty for years, have been pocketing huge profits. The bunt, East makes the play. 1-4 on the sacrifice, moving Hayes to second. And strictly forgetting about anything else, from a public relations standpoint in their own markets, those teams are going to have a very difficult time now going forward making the same arguments about lowering payroll that they have in the past.
And, a lot of people will say that it's their money to do whatever they want, but there's a public trust issue there with your ball club, and especially when you're getting a new ballpark and municipal dollars are going to that new ballpark. People expect a first-class winner. They expect that occasionally you're going to be in the free agent game, and those are going to be trying times as they move ahead. And you're right, PR-wise.
It's one thing for a small market team to not be able to compete because of uneven revenues, but it's another thing to take revenue sharing and put it in your pocket instead of using that for what it's supposed to be for, which is to create competition, to give the large market teams and the small market teams a more even playing field.
And I found it very interesting that most of the clubs came back, we're going to find out who did this, as opposed to saying, this is why, we are not afraid to have our books public, and this is what we're trying to do as we move forward with our 5-year plan.
Maben has struck out each of his first 2 at-bats tonight. Well, the Marlins tried to explain in a way by saying, well, we needed to take money out in order to be more stable going into the new ballpark. But I'm not sure a lot of people in South Florida are buying that. Especially the public officials in South Florida who were convinced to put in a lot of public money for the new stadium because the Marlins supposedly didn't have enough money to do it themselves.
Well, that's it's not only the Marlins. There's a lot of teams that the Pittsburgh Pirates have been one of the teams. It's just it's interesting as they move forward. They have to feel as though that stuff is going to be a public domain.
But the other piece of it is, if you're a large market team like, say, the Mets, who've been kicking in revenue sharing money, you got to be saying to yourself, well, wait a second, that's got to change. That if we're going to be giving them that kind of money, it's got to go for the purpose for which it's intended. And I wouldn't be surprised if those revenue sharing rules start to get rewritten.
Well, it's another way to look at it, Gary. If you're the Mets or a good team, keep taking the money and put it in your pocket, because that means you're not going to have a good team. Gives us less competition. We don't ever want you to be good.
Although the funny thing is, of course, that the Marlins, who have spent far less money than the Mets over the last few years, have just about the same record.
And 41-32 in Flushing against the Mets.
He's about to throw his 75th pitch of the night. 2-2 to Maben, and the curveball in there for a call strike 3. Maben strikes out for the 3rd time tonight. Number 7 for John Neese. Halfway through, 4-2 Mets. David Wright with a long home run. John Neese has given up a home run to Hanley Ramirez, but not much else, and the Mets lead 4-2 as we start the bottom of the 5th. Jeff Francoeur 2 for 2 tonight and hits in his last 4 at-bats going back to last night. Tonight he's hit a bullet to third. Helms made a diving stop, but Frenchie got an infield hit, and then he had a seeing eye single up the middle to drive in a run in the 3rd. Breaking ball fouled off. Sanchez with a 2-1, and Francoeur fouls it off. 2-2. Josh Tolley on deck, and then Luis Castillo for the Mets in the home 5th. That's with 8 hits off Sanchez. And Francoeur lays off. He's had more 3-2 counts the last 10 days, and he probably had the entire season before that.
Just outstanding by Francoeur. Looks like he's looking for the ball up in the strike zone. Anything down, he's trying to take.
3-2. And the breaking ball misses, and he's on base again. That's the 4th straight inning that Sanchez has started with a walk. Well, we saw some fascinating stuff from Kevin Burkhardt about Mets third base coach Chip Hale before the game, and Kevin's got more.
Kind of a neat look on what a coach does, Gary, to get ready and how their day goes. Chip Hale gets here, as an example, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and really one of the first things he does is go to the computer. He figures out how this team is going to play defensively for the night, and how he does that, he could, in this computer, he could put in just about any split you could possibly imagine. I mean, left, right, how they've done the last month. Anything you could imagine, he puts it in. And not only that, they could pull up hit charts. Off those hit charts, he could pull up highlights to see just about anything he wants to see to determine how he's going to put together the defense. When he does that, he then puts together a sheet that each player gets on their bench when they come in for the day. And on that sheet, it tells the players where they're going to play against each batter. It'll also have little nuggets about, this batter likes to bunt, on 1 strike. This batter likes to seal third. Little bits of tidbits of information that are helpful to the fielder. And then what Chip will do next, he'll stay on that computer and he'll look at the outfield arms of the other team. Of course, as a third base coach, you want to know who's doing what. And, you know, when you play the teams you're familiar with, of course, you have an idea. But he looks at what they've done lately. He basically will pull up the last month on video, and he could see any throw that these guys have made. So he'll pull one up and watch where the opposing team's runner is as a guy is getting the ball. So let's say Raul Ibanez is making a throw home to get somebody out. He'll watch where the runner is on the base pass when Ibanez gets the ball. So if it was a good throw home and the guy's out, Chip has an idea kind of comparing speeds. All right, I have an idea if my runner is here, I may not send him the way Ibanez is throwing lately. That's all goes into this, guys.
Francoeur runs and a hit-run base hit for Tolley. Francoeur trying to go first to third. Morrison's throw, and he got him at third base. Great diving tag by Helms. Francoeur trying to go first to third on a single to shallow left on the hit-and-run play, and he's gunned down.
Well, I think this is a nice calculated gamble. You're talking about a first baseman playing left field, not a particularly great throw. It took a great play by Helms on the hit and run. Frenchie did, well, it looks like he was stealing, never looked in, but caught the ball anyway and tries that slide inside. Just a great play by Helms.
So 7-5 on the putout for the first out of the inning. Now Luis Castillo with Tolley at first and one out. Louis has walked and flied out 0 for 1, and he takes a strike.
And I think you take the gamble because you have Castillo and the pitcher coming up.
And, you know, we just saw and heard from Kevin about Chip Hale judging the outfielder's arms, and that's part of the judgment that he made after the study that he did pregame. Here's Morrison, a left-hand thrower who's a first baseman learning to play the outfield, and that's why you take that chance where you might not with another left fielder.
Although usually on those plays, remember that it goes player coach first. Player has that ball right in front of him. That's the read for Francoeur, and thought he could take that chance.
Pulled to the right side. Nice play by Ugla. Gets the out at second. Hanley's relay not in time. Castillo beat it out. Ugla doing a nice job handling that smash, and they get the 4-6 force on Tolley.
Well, I don't know about you, Gary, but especially this season, Ugla has turned himself into a much better player defensively. See this play at first. Louis beats it pretty easily. And Josh Tolley, who's shown this all season long, that he is not afraid to go after the run. You see Ramirez staring him down. Too bad. That's how you play the game. Nice job by Josh.
Castillo beating the Rapid first means that the Mets can clear the pitcher spot here in the fifth. Nice with a sacrifice and a strikeout tonight, 0 for 1. Lofted out to left, and Morrison playing shallow. Side retired. 5 in the books now at Citi Field. Mets working with a 4-2 lead. ready for real business. Sixth inning, Logan Morrison leads off against John Neese. Neese has given up only 2 hits in this game. A leadoff double to Morrison in the 4th, and then Hanley Ramirez followed with a 2-run homer. Neese has walked 2 and struck out 7, just 1 shy of his career high. And he runs one inside to Morrison, 2-0. He's been trying to get in on Morrison all night.
Hasn't been getting a call from Mike Riley. Mike Riley, one of the veteran umpires, 32 years of experience, outstanding behind the plate. He's been very good tonight.
And he hits Morrison with a pitch. So, indeed trying to come inside. That time with a fastball that hit Morrison on the leg. And the Marlins have the leadoff man on in the 6th.
It's very interesting. When Neese tries to throw the cutter to the right-handed hitter, it seems like he has a nice way to throw it. Against the left-handed hitter, he always seems to come out early on that pitch and left that inside, of course, to Morrison.
So some huge hitters coming up here. Hanley Ramirez, who had a 2-run homer his last time up, tying run at the plate in a 4-2 game. Ramirez now with 17 home runs, 64 RBIs. He is 8 for 12 in this series. And he takes it away for ball 1. Brian Sanchez is up in the Marlins bullpen. Sometimes hard to keep all those Sanchez's straight. Gabby and Anibal and Brian. And the curveball drops in for a strike, 1-1.
Pitch up in the strike zone. Laser beam to left field.
As hard a hit ball as we've seen in this ballpark all year. 1-2 to Hanley. That was his rookie season in 2006. Last year, he was the National League batting champ, hitting .342. Slightly more pedestrian year this year. 1-2. Slash foul.
Well, that's what makes him a great hitter. One at bat, he can hit a laser beam over the left field wall. The next time, he hits a line drive foul down the right field line. Uses the entire field, has power to right center.
Like his old teammate Miguel Cabrera.
Exactly, same mold.
Curveball wraps around the plate. That's 2-2. He's at 83 pitches in the 6th inning. 2 runs allowed tonight. That's the most he's allowed in any of his last 5 starts. 1, 1, 1, 1, and tonight 2. Now he's got a full count on Ramirez with Ugla on deck. So this is a very important pitch coming up for Neese.
It's the first time I've seen Jonathan, as Ugla's on deck, overthrowing just a bit. The nerves of this inning, knowing how important it is to get through the middle of this Marlins lineup.
Maybe the way Hanley struck the ball his last time as well. 3-2. Curveball hit right through the pitcher and into center field. So Ramirez has his 9th hit in 13 at-bats in this series, and the Marlins have the tying runs on base.
Well, this one hung up in the strike zone, but right between the legs of Jonathan Neese. You usually think on a 3-2 count you're going to get this pitch for a called 3rd strike. Not with Ramirez. Bullet up the middle.
Hanley goes reverse 5-hole on Neese. Elmer descends quickly to work in the Mets bullpen. Descends has been very lightly used of late. Only 2 appearances in the last 25 days. Here's Ugla, who's still looking for his first hit in this series, 0 for 10. And he takes it up and away. So Neese starting to weaken a little bit here in the 6th.
Well, his arm angle is a little down right now. It's going to be a great time for Tolley to go out there and just let him know he's getting under the baseball just a little bit. Needs to stand taller, get on top of that ball.
He's been thriving this year in these situations, runners in scoring position. He has seemed at times imperturbable this year.
Well, that one was much better. Stood tall and got on top of that baseball. That's the key always for Jonathan. Look at that motion. Long stride. Double kick with that back leg. and really pushes off. It's Kuzman-like right there, I'm telling you.
Cutter in tight on Uggla, 2-1. Buckle down moment in this game for John Neese. And now he's behind on Uggla, 3-1. With another dangerous hitter, Gabby Sanchez, on deck. And with Tolley not going to the mound, David Wright will.
This, of course, will not be about mechanics. It'll be always a reminder, hey, listen, you got great stuff tonight. You're throwing the ball good. You got 8 guys behind you. Throw a strike. We'll make a play for you. We'll turn 2. All positive things you want to tell the pitcher when he's in this situation.
Dan Warthen checking his charts as DeSenz continues to get ready in the bullpen. Neese behind Uggla, 3-1. And it's foul back. Good fastball, 3-2.
Well, biggest pitch of the game, Gary.
Morrison at second. Ramirez the tying run at first. Uggla has struck out 117 times this year.
Line drive down the line. That's a fair ball going into the corner. Morrison scores. Ramirez to third. He'll be held up there. The throw goes to second. Uggla in with an RBI double. The Met lead is trimmed to 4-3. And the Marlins have second and third and nobody out.
Well, the hit batter hurts Jonathan Neese. He scores. Morrison, a cutter in, gets it in, but on the 3-2 count, of course, the hitter has the advantage of anticipating something hard in the strike zone. And Uggla somehow kept that ball fair down the left field line.
First hit in the series for Dan Uggla. He had gone 0 for 10 to that point. Drives in his 81st run of the year. Dan Warthen at the mound. We'll check in with the studio. Chris Carlin standing by with the New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. It's 5 straight wins now for the Astros, who will throw Nelson Figueroa against Mike Pelfrey tomorrow night. But right now for the Mets, John Neese in danger of giving up the lead. He was up 4-0. Now it's 4-3, and Gabby Sanchez bats with 2 in scoring position. Sanchez 0 for 2 tonight, but 2 hard hit balls. Lined out to center, grounded out to short.
We've seen in this series, Sanchez, when he has a guy on third, now second and third, less than 2 outs, he likes to go to right field.
Infield back, and at the feet of Sanchez, 2-0. Anibal Sanchez had a rough beginning to this game. The Mets have scored 4. They easily could have a whole lot more. There's a strike. They've had a line drive double play. They've had a bad call at first, cost them a run. Some unfortunate luck. But the Mets have managed just 4, and now that looks like it might not be enough. 2-1. In tight to Sanchez, and again Neese is behind 3-1. And now a full count to Sanchez with Mike Stanton, an ice cold hitter, waiting on deck. Neese's pitch count beginning to run up there now. 21 in this inning. Three and 2 to Gabby Sanchez. And he pops it up in foul ground. Tolley coming back, but it's in the crowd.
Once you have that catcher go back here in Citi Field from the plate, very rarely is it going to stay in play.
Shortest distance from home plate to the front row of any ballpark in the majors. Great for the fans, not so great for the pitchers.
3-2. And he walked him, and the bases are loaded. Third walk given up by Nice. And now you've got Mike Stanton coming up with the bases loaded and nobody out. Does he get one more batter?
What happens when you have starters who've given you so much depth and so much fine pitching all season long? The manager's sold. You're going to get an extra out.
Stanton is 0 for 2 tonight. 1 hit in his last 30 at bats. And he swings and misses at the first pitch cutter. 0-1.
But just like the Mets have been ice cold with the bases loaded, not so for the opposition. Stanton swinging at a bad pitch.
And now it's 0-2. A couple of cutters, and Stanton hasn't come close.
Well, very rarely will you throw 3 pitches in a row, but Stanton has shown that he's not even coming close to that pitch. You have to stay with that pitch down and in, out of the strike zone.
And he strikes him out on 3 cutters. Strikeout number 8 for John Neese. That matches his career high. It's the first out of the inning.
Oh, you have a young hitter. He's 20 years old, and the pressure is on the young hitter. He wants to come through so badly that he will swing at 3 pitches out of the strike zone. That's just inexperience and nice pitching by Neese.
So now the Mets are a double play away from getting out of this inning with the perfect candidate at the plate in Wes Helms. Helms has struck out and walked tonight, 0 for 1. And he runs that inside, ball 1. Ramirez the tying run at third. Ungla at second, and Sanchez at first with 1 out.
The experience. Stanton swings at all 3 of those pitches. Veteran Helms takes it to ball 1.
And Helms lifts one to deep right center field, headed back toward the gap. Frank Core makes the catch. What an incredible play! Into score comes Ramirez, and the other runners are able to get back. Advancing to third is Ugla, but what a game-saving play by Frank Core. The sacrifice fly brings in the tying run, but it could have been 2 or 3 more.
Well, you don't get this kind of right field defense from many right fielders. A ball that was ticketed to be double or triple, bases clearing, and what a catch by Frank Core, going all out in right center field. As good as you're going to see.
Sparkling play by Frenchie. It brings home Ramirez with the tying run. Ugla tagged and went to third. Gabby Sanchez, the runner at first, was all the way around second and had to retrace his steps to get back. Now Brett Hayes, the number 8 hitter, and he takes a strike. So the Mets' 4-0 lead has disappeared. It's now a 4-4 game. Ugla the go-ahead run at third. Sanchez at first with 2 down. 1-1 to Hayes. Donnie Murphy has come out on deck to be a pinch hitter if Hayes keeps the inning going. So Anibal Sanchez, who was just awful early in this game, has now been taken off the hook. Sliced down the right field line, and that ball will land fair. It's a ground rule double, and it gives the Marlins the lead. Ugla comes in to score. Sanchez will have to go back to third. It's a fly ball double for Brett Hayes, and it's 5-4 Florida. And that'll be all for John Neese.
Well, it's one of those unfortunate. Frank Core always plays deep in right center. I also think after a fine play, might have almost misjudged that ball to right field.
Elmer DeSenz coming on for the Mets. John Neese, after a fine beginning, will lead. The call to the bullpen brought to you by Lincoln Mercury.
Down 5-4 as he takes his exit. And Elmer DeSenz comes on to face the pinch hitter Donnie Murphy with 2 in scoring position and 2 out. DeSenz little heard from lately.
Well, he hasn't pitched a lot, but that's what happens when your starters go so deep into games. See his numbers on the season, but Elmer's one of those guys. He can pitch 5 days in a row. He also usually, if he has lots of rest, usually can throw strikes.
Last outing 8 days ago in Houston. There's a strike, 1-1 to Murphy, the 8th man up in the inning. Sanchez now at third, Hayes at second with 2 out. The Marlins with 3 home here in the 6th. It all started with Logan Morrison being hit by a pitch. Ramirez a base hit. Ugla doubled. Sanchez walked. Helms at the sac fly, in which Frank Core made the great play, and then Hayes doubled in the go-ahead run. 2-1 to Murphy.
I know you got a fresh hitter up there, but Murphy had a hit in last night's game, and Elmer, as a veteran's got to know, base open, he has got to make Murphy hit his pitch. Maben struck out 3 times already in this game.
Grounded down toward the hole. Backhanded by Tejada. The long toss can't get there, and a run comes in. An infield hit for Murphy makes it 6-4 Florida.
Well, just out of the reach of David's glove. Tejada really had no play in the hole. Just off the end of the glove. No, even missed the glove. Mets haven't had a lot of luck tonight on the Beltran hits, and seeing eye hook grounders for the Marlins here.
4 runs home in the inning, 6-4 Florida. Maben, the 9th man up in the inning, already has struck out 3 times tonight. And takes a slider for a strike.
This has just been about one team that hasn't been able to capitalize on their chances, including a bad call, and another team has.
Mets had a 4-0 lead, but they've left 8 runners on base in the first 5 innings. And the Marlins have taken full advantage and coming back. 1-1 to Maben. Logan Morrison, who began this inning getting hit by a pitch, is waiting on deck. The Marlins have just 6 hits in this game. The Mets have 9. And Maben grounds one to the hole, off Wright's glove and into left field. That'll bring home Hayes, and it's 7-4. A ball hit in almost the identical spot to Murphy's ball. This one Wright got a piece of.
Deflected it past Tejada. Hayes will score, and just off the end of the glove again by David Wright.
All 7 runs are charged to John Neese. The book now closed on him. 5 2/3 innings, 7 runs, 5 hits, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts, a hit batsman, and a home run. Who knew? Here's Morrison, who led off the inning, got hit on the leg by a pitch. He's been on base 3 times in a row tonight. A walk and a double his first 2 trips, and he takes ball 1 from DeSenz. DeSenz comes in, gets a couple of ground balls, 2 hits against him. And a couple of inherited runners have come home. And now 2-0 to Morrison. Neese's ERA goes up from 3.33 to 3.63.
And a drive in the air to deep right field. Frank Core watches it go into the Mo zone. Murphy is in. Maben right behind him. A 2-run double for Logan Morrison. A 7-run inning for the Florida Marlins, who lead it 9-4.
Well, 2-0 count. had to challenge Morrison, and we've seen his quick bat all series long. Line drive over the head of Frank Core. Plays it on one hop, but the thing about that, no chance, because Maben, one of the fastest men in the league, and he scores pretty easily on the double by Morrison.
A horrendous inning for the New York Mets. A game they led 4-0. They now trail 9-4. And now Hanley Ramirez, the batter. He singled earlier in this inning in a 2-run homer in the 4th. Manny Acosta up in the Mets bullpen. And the curveball and a high fly ball hit to left. This one will be playable for Pagan. And the inning mercifully comes to an end. But 11 Marlins came to bat. Florida scores 7, 9-4 Marlins. Sports needs with diverse personalities debating the top sports stories of the day, plus exclusive interviews and special guests on Daily News Live, Wheelhouse, and Loudmouths. All part of the New York Sports Local, weekdays starting at 5 on SNY. Here's your AT&T trivia question for tonight. In 1990, what 4 Met pitchers finished in the top 5 in strikeouts in the National League?
Got 3 of them. Oh, I got 4.
I think I got 4.
Yeah.
Brian Sanchez replaces Anibal Sanchez, who went from not very good pitcher tonight to pitcher of record on the long side.
Well, Brian Sanchez, who had a hamstring pull, just came back, but he appeared in 47 games for the Marlins last year. He bets that with his appearance tonight. He is 48. He has been outstanding for this Marlins team now 2 seasons in a row.
Had a troubled but scoreless inning in the opening game of this series, in which he allowed a double and a walk, but emerged unscathed. Top of the batting order, Ruben Tejada leads off. Mets had a 4-0 lead in this game. They had a healthy Jose Reyes when the game started, but Reyes got hurt on a swing in the second inning, and Tejada took over for him at short. Reyes re-aggravating the oblique injury that felled him earlier this season. Tejada came up with the bases loaded in the 3rd inning for his only at bat. Hit a slow ground ball to third base. Wes Helms double clutched, threw the ball to first, too late in everybody's view except for Bill Miller's, and his was the only one that counted. So instead of an RBI single, Tejada merely had a ground out. And everything has gone wrong for the Mets since.
You know, when you're going on a bad streak, double clutch by Helms, you don't get that call, and easily safe is Tejada at first base. No other way to say it.
That would have made it 5-0 had the call been proper. Instead, the Mets were turned aside, and now the Marlins have scored 9 unanswered runs. Well, this is the 5th straight inning now in which the Mets have drawn a leadoff walk. Anibal Sanchez walked the leadoff hitter the 2nd through the 5th, and now Brian Sanchez walks the leadoff hitter in the 6th, and maybe it's the full moon. So the Mets begin the uphill climb with a leadoff walk, and here's Pagan, who has an RBI double and a walk tonight, 1 for 2. By the way, the 7-run inning for the Marlins matches their season high. The Mets, unfortunately, have seen worse. They get a 9-run inning perpetrated by the Phillies.
It's a Santana ball game, right?
Yep. Very interesting defensive alignment in the outfield for the Marlins against Pagan. Playing him like a slap-hitting opposite field hitter.
And they're not protecting Triple's alley.
Fly ball, center field, and Maben eases back. One away. Tejada back to first. Now Carlos Beltran has hit the ball hard 3 times in a row. He singled to right and scored a run in the first. He lined into a double play in the second. And they hit a very sharp ground ball into a double play in the fourth. So it's been a very rough 1 for 3. And a fastball strike. 7 runs allowed by John Neese tonight matches a career high. He had a similar line against Arizona back on the 1st of August. Curveball sits high. 2-1 to Carlos. David Wright working on a big night, waiting on deck. And it's 3-1 to Beltran. So Brian Sanchez hurting himself and putting himself in jeopardy here, falling behind in counts. Already walked Tejada on 4 pitches to start the inning. And Beltran pops it up. Ramirez retreating. 2 out. Hanley styling.
Well, when it's windy like this, you would like to use 2 hands. A lot of players use 1 hand today. And, you know, that's a great way to style. The only problem is when you drop one of those in a crucial situation.
So here is Wright. David's 2 for 2 and a walk. In a bomb of a 2-run homer off the facing of the second deck in left field in the first inning. Walked and scored in the third. Singled hard into left center in the fourth. And he's got his batting average right at 300 for the year with this hot streak. And has seen him pick up 11 hits in 22 at-bats over his last 6 games. And another good rip by David, 0-1. Fly ball along the right field line. Over comes Stanton for a look, but the wind helps blow it into the crowd. Well, it's been a year of streaks for David Wright, and even his month by month will tell you that. Started out well, struggled in May, unbelievable June, not bad July, and August until very recently had been a washout. But he has changed that with a hot streak. Sanchez ahead 0-2, and it's up and away. Mike Davis would be next. The Mets have had 9 hits. They've drawn 6 walks, and they've had a batter hit by a pitch. And 16 base runners in 5 2/3 innings, but only 4 runs. Burt Baden hop up in the Marlins bullpen. Two. Popped up foul, and Sanchez for a look. That'll go in the crowd. Manny Acosta continuing to work in the Mets bullpen. Two. Fly ball right center field, pretty deep, but Stanton has it lined up. And that retires the side. A leadoff walk, but the Mets failed to cash in. 9-4 Florida after 6. In their series against the Astros here at Citi Field. Mets-Astros coverage begins with Subway pregame live tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. only on SNY. There are your Mercedes probables for the upcoming series. Figueroa makes his return to Flushing against Pelfrey. Santana against Brett Myers Saturday night. R.A. Dickey against Bud Norris Sunday afternoon. Dan Uggla leads off in the 7th. Manny Acosta on to pitch, and a first pitch slider in for a strike.
Well, Acosta's numbers here so far this season, brought to you by Domino's Pizza, really manhandling the left-handed hitters.
Manny pitched last night, got a little fortunate, gave up a walk to Wes Helms and a long double to Donnie Murphy, but Helms was thrown out of the plate on a good relay and a good pickup by Tolle, and that helped Acosta throw a scoreless inning. Uggla had an RBI double in the big 6th inning. It'll be Uggla, then Gabby Sanchez and Mike Stanton for the Marlins in the 7th. Mets went from 4 up to 5 down about as fast as you can.
Wow.
And a good breaking ball by Acosta gets Uggla for the first out.
Well, I think that was a changeup from Acosta. You don't see him throw a lot of changeups to right-handed hitters, but a good one.
So 1 out now. Gabby Sanchez steps in. Sanchez 0 for 2 and a walk. And he takes off the corner for ball 1. Mets this entire month of August have been either at 500, 1 game over, or 1 game under. And I think that really bespeaks the way this season has gone for this team. That even here, over the last few days, as it's hit to shortstop for Tejada on the backhand, and he gets Sanchez for the second out. Over these last few days, when opportunity has really presented itself for this team to get themselves into a profile where they can compete for something down the last 5 weeks of the season, these games that appear to be there for the taking have eluded them.
And a lot of times you look for that moment that is going to get the entire team going. Sometimes it can be a defensive play, sometimes it can be an offensive play. But you look back at it at the end of the season and go, boy, that really jump-started us to go 8-2, 9-1. Mets, every time they've had that moment presented and not been able to come up with that big hit, make that pitch, or make that defensive play.
I mean, really, these last 4 days have just been a case in point. Sunday, you got your ace on the mound, gives up 2 runs, complete game performance against, Pirate team that can't get out of its own way, and you lose 2-1. You have a stirring victory here on Tuesday night, in position to have another one last night and come up just short. And then with a 4-0 lead and a starting pitcher who's been giving you great efforts virtually every time out, that turns out to be his bad day.
So you go from winning 6 in a row to treading water.
Exactly. You go from being in the race, still being on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
Stanton is 0 for 3 tonight. Only a couple of strikeouts. But he rips one to left field. Pagan going back, and he gets there to make the grab. Side retired. Acosta sets him down 1-2-3. 7th inning stretch time at Citi Field, 9-4 Florida. 4 Met pitchers finish in the top 5.
Loyola, Gooden, Cone, Fernandez.
There you go.
I have to say, the caveat to that is I was MIA that year.
Well, if they put your numbers and Bobby O's numbers together,
yes,
maybe you would have been close to the top 5.
Or maybe not.
Emilio Bonifacio takes over in right field. He'll bat 9th. And Bert Badenhop will pitch the bottom of the 7th.
And they made that double switch because Badenhop happens to be their guy that can go multiple innings. Had a 5-pitch inning 2 nights ago against the Mets.
Dodge numbers for Badenhop. Ike Davis leads off the home 7th. It'll be Davis, Frank, Corey, and Tolley as the Mets try and climb the hill. Ike tonight 1 for 2 and a walk. Anibal Sanchez allowed 4 runs, 9 hits, and walked 5 in 5 innings, but right now that's good enough to put him in line for a win. Brian Sanchez pitched a hitless 6th inning. The stunning part about this game right now is that the Mets have drawn a leadoff walk in each of the last 5 innings, and yet they're down by 5 runs. You know how hard that is?
Yeah. He only scored a couple of runs in those 5 innings, and that's that's not maxing out on your opportunities, but got to give some credit for Sanchez, who got it out 5 innings. It was fortunate, but also stayed out there.
And we could see another leadoff walk. It's Badenhop's behind 3-1. That's the record.
There you go.
Leadoff walks in 1 game. And Davis takes inside ball 4. Can you believe that? 6 straight innings Marlin pitchers have walked the leadoff batter. Those guys didn't walk nearly as many leadoff hitters.
Wow.
What a step that was.
That's a lot of punch outs.
Brought to you by Cabot Wood Stains. Loyola winning 20 games in his first full season as a Met.
That's the year that Frankie V won his 20th game in Pittsburgh. Someone, I don't know who was, inadvertently put, how they do that bubble gum they put on the top of someone's hat?
Right.
Well, he threw all of his warm-up pitches on his way to try to win his 20th game with the bubble gum on top of his hat.
Why does that not surprise me?
Well, Frankie V was the recipient of a lot of ill humor. And it didn't matter. He still went out there and won all the time, it seemed.
As Murph used to say, sweet music.
There you go.
Frank Core's been on base 3 times in a row in this game. 2 singles and a walk. He's driven in a run. He's been on base 5 straight times going back to last night's game. So Badenhop, who had a 5-pitch inning here the other night, having it come a little more difficulty here in the 7th. And Frenchie goes down swinging. First time he's been retired tonight.
Badenhop has an unusual slider. It's kind of like a slurve, and he slings it up there. And it's almost like if you go bowling and you're a good bowler, it starts down the lane, it stays there for a long time, and makes that left turn. That's what Badenhop's slider does.
Little Jeff Nelson-esque.
There you go.
Frisbee. Here's Tolley. 1 for 2. He's also been hit by a pitch tonight. And he takes a fastball for a strike. Oh, and 2 to Josh. No pitch. Josh got something in his eye. Whatever it is, it's hard to get out with batting gloves.
Well, the way he's doing for someone that's worn contact lenses for 44 years, obviously Josh has some in there, and just trying to open that eye a little bit, get that contact lens to move around.
Sometimes roll up like window shades when they get dry. It's awfully hard to see through a wrinkly contact lens. Castillo on deck. And Tolley strikes out on the pitch in the dirt. Back-to-back strikeouts for Badenhop. 2 out of the inning.
Badenhop, we talked about his slider, also has a very good sinking fastball and changeup. That ball hits before the plate. You very rarely see Josh Tolley go out of the strike zone.
So now Luis Castillo, who's 0 for 2 and a walk, making his first start in a week. And Louis takes the first pitch strike. Ramirez in front of it, and the forced play ends the inning. 4th straight inning, the Mets have failed to score after a leadoff walk. Still 9-4. By Pepsi Max. 0 calories, maximum Pepsi taste. And by freescore.com. Turn a credit score triple play at freescore.com. 3 scores, 1 source. freescore.com. Russ Helms leads off the 8th inning against Manny Acosta. Helms has struck out, walked, and then in the 6th inning drove in the tying run with a long sacrifice fly to right center that resulted in the best defensive play in this game. A spectacular catch by Jeff Francoeur. This one's popped up for Ike Davis into foul ground. 1 away. Chris Carlin is standing by, back in the studio for a New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. Home runs in his 10th season. What might he do before he's done?
Wow.
I mean, he is the best player in the game, and it seems as though he's only getting better.
Yeah.
This year, he might have a triple crown within his sights. I mean, think about that. There hasn't been a triple crown in the National League since 1937.
37 and 1967 in the American League.
Ducky Medwick, the last to achieve the triple crown in the National League with the Cardinals. Popped up, shallow left, Tejada out. And he's retired 2 away. And in the American League, you had back-to-back years with triple crowns. 1966, Frank Robinson, and then 67, Carl Yastrzemski, with an asterisk, as he tied for the home run lead that year with Harmon Killebrew. I don't think they put the asterisk in the book.
Well, I think the best thing you can say, with all the superlatives you can talk about Pujols, is that he's in the running for the Triple Crown every year. Every year we have the same discussion at the end of August that he has a chance for the Triple Crown.
Emilio Bonifacio up for the first time, came into the double switch, and it's a comebacker. And it might also be noted, not only is Pujols challenging for the Triple Crown, so is Joey Votto. They're neck and neck. 1, 2, 3 for Acosta in the top of the 8th, still 9-4. Let's check in with Kevin.
When you think of Jesus Feliciano, guys, I mean, since you're thinking forward about this Mets team with some of the young guys up here, you wonder, can he be on this team and be a bench player next year and help out in that capacity? And I talked to him about that, and he said, well, look, I think the one thing is I need to work on mentally is coming off the bench and knowing the situations. Every time I pinch hit, I feel like I'm still trying to get the feel of it. Really, when you think about it, he's never really done that in his career. I mean, he's played all the time, every level he's been at, so it's totally new. He told me the preparation, you know, he's always trying to look ahead, and again, it's something he's trying to get used to. Interesting, though, in the minor leagues, he started taking ground balls at first base this season at Buffalo, just trying to add to that utility value. So he could also put that in his pocket as well. What do you think, guys?
Well, I mean, we're talking about a guy, I don't know if he has enough at-bats for the batting championship. Probably not after having the couple stays here in the big leagues. And I'm talking about a batting champion for Buffalo. I think he left batting about 350. But Feliciano is one of those guys who can hit. He's always hit every place he's gone. So playing more positions, Kevin, is always the key for these utility type players.
Of course, it's so much harder for a left-hand thrower to be that guy because you can't play anywhere except the outfield and first base. So if you're going to be a left-hand batting utility guy, you have to have some power, and that's what really stands in Jesus's way.
Power, and the other thing that's always a problem is when you play on a team and you're a utility outfielder and you have a team, as he goes down swinging, that has players that play 9 innings every night. You know, when Moises Alou was here, that opened it up for some players to play a couple innings a night.
There's the Andy Chavez roll.
There you go.
Take a look at the PPG Pittsburgh Paints overhead camera.
Really has a lot of movement on that Baden-Hop pitch.
So 1 out now. Ruben Tejada comes up for the third time. Tejada, the victim of a bad call on a ground out in the third that cost him a hit and an RBI, and then he walked in the sixth. Came on for Jose Reyes, who left the game in the second inning, again injuring his right oblique muscle. They're calling it mild, but they say until he is completely symptom free, he's not going to do anything baseball related. One hopper to third. And Helms throws out Tejada 2 away. Well, the Mets have 35 games to go in the season after tonight, but this is the season finale for a very important member of our team. Our treasured intern, Jeremy McCarthy, is going back to school after the game tonight, heading back to NYU for his final semester. And Jeremy has been outstanding in his role this year, and he will be greatly missed.
And the good news, Jeremy, Washington Square Park, renovations are done. It's open again. Whole year that park was closed. I love that park.
There's no better place to hang out in this city.
That's right.
And that's been true for a long time. Angel Pagan takes wide for ball one. Angel 1 for 3, doubled and a run back in the second. NYU is it's Kenny Albert's alma mater, right?
Kenny Albert, Billy Webb.
I always think of those two together.
Spike Lee.
Pagan has his second hit of the night. Happy Hairston.
Pagan mixes in his couple of hits a night, coming off a 4-hit night last night. Line drives all over the ballpark.
Here's Beltran, 1 for 4 tonight. Mets now have 10 hits in the game, 2 more than the Marlins. Fortunately, they judge games by that first column, not by the second.
Did you say 10 hits, 6 walks, hit by pitch?
17 base runners. Wow. Mets have left a runner in every inning, 10 for the game. This is the first inning since the first that they didn't draw a leadoff walk. Beltran lifts one to right, and Stanton camped under it. That retires the side. 2 scoreless innings for Burke Badenhop, sending us off to the ninth with the Marlins up 9-4. tonight. Lots of good news in the box score as far as hits, and David Wright with a home run, but the Mets have left 11 runners on base over the first 8 innings and find themselves 5 runs down as we go to the 9th. And Pedro Feliciano's had more time off than he's accustomed to lately. We'll go to the mound.
Yeah, Feliciano, a guy that you usually see pitching every day, 67th appearance. And I think that he went through those struggles in beginning of July, end of June, and has turned it around.
Pedro's first outing in a week. Last pitch last Thursday night in Houston, and looking a little rusty as that one goes to the backstop. 1-1 to Cameron Maybin. Logan Morrison and Hanley Ramirez to follow for the Marlins, who put up 7 runs in the 6th inning. A game in which the Mets led 4-0, but Ramirez a 2-run homer in the 4th, and then that huge 6th. And the Marlins turned the game completely around against John Neese. Neese struck out 6 and didn't allow a hit for the first 3 innings, but wound up giving up 7 runs and 5 hits over 5 2/3.
And you never would have guessed that, would you, after the first 3 innings?
Elmer Descends worked a third of an inning, allowed 2 runs, 3 hits. Manny Acosta 6 up and 6 down in his stretch. And now a nice short hop pickup by Wright as he throws out Maybin for the first out. See Ralph Kiner in his television heyday once again as SNY.TV gives Kiner's Corner a new lease on life. See all the classic interviews throughout the years, plus hear Ralph's current take on baseball's past and present on Kiner's Corner Revisited, exclusively on SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports.
Who was in charge of that music? That was outstanding.
Here's Logan Morrison, who's been on base 4 straight times, 2 doubles, a walk, a hit by pitch. His 2-run double capped that 7-run 6th inning. He has had a very impressive series. The Mets getting their first look at Morrison. He's gone 6 for 12 in the 3 games.
And they have backed him off the plate, and can I tell you, he has not given an inch at least 4 or 5 times today and been hit with a pitch. Hard-nosed player.
Two and 1 to Morrison. So Morrison is 6 for 12 in the series. Hanley Ramirez, who's on deck, is 9 for 14. That's 15 hits in 26 at bats for the 2 and 3 hitters in the 3-game series. Feliciano keeps coming inside, 3 and 1.
So you can envision for them next year, Coughlin leading off, Morrison hitting 2nd, Ramirez hitting 3rd.
Or maybe hit Coughlin down in the order if Maybin hands out as a leadoff hitter. I think that's what they'd like to see with Maybin's speed. Question is, going to get on base enough? 3 and 2 to Morrison. Well, the Marlins keep retooling year after year with quality young players. It's been amazing what they've been able to do with their farm system. Ball 4, and so Morrison is on for a 5th straight time. Let's check in with Gary Apple, see what's coming up tonight on Geico Sports Night.
Gary, thank you so much. Coming up tonight, going to hear from the great Joe Namath. He's not so sure Mark Sanchez is ready to lead the Jets to the Super Bowl this season. And one major league owner has guaranteed his team's going to be in the playoffs. Let you know who it is tonight, guys.
All right, Gary, we'll tune in for that.
Joe said he was the greatest last year in the playoffs. He's changed his mind.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to hear the details.
Absolutely.
Here's Hanley Ramirez, and he foul tips 1-0 and 1. Just talking about the Marlins, you know, sometimes being a small market team, if you do things right, can almost work to your advantage. For instance, you know, Josh Beckett got to be maybe a little too expensive for the Marlins. They traded him away probably earlier than they would have liked to, but they got this guy back in the trade. You know, when you have when you're a team that can nurture young players and get them to a certain financial level and then have to trade them away, sometimes you can turn those now established players into even better players if you play your cards the right way.
Igarashi in the bullpen, and the possible winning pitcher in tonight's game came over in that trade also.
And Hanley takes a breaking ball that just misses. 1-2. I mean, right now, would you rather have Hanley Ramirez, Josh Beckett?
The Red Sox have spent the last 4 seasons trying to find a shortstop, haven't they?
Slow ground ball, tough play for Wright, can't make the bare hand pickup. And Ramirez is aboard again, his 3rd hit of the night, and his 10th in this 3-game series. 10 hits and 15 at bats.
Well, it's a do or die with the speed of Ramirez, and David's not able to come up. See, it hits that lip, and once it hit the lip, it kept the ball down instead of coming up into the fingers of David Wright. I'm telling you, every time Ramirez comes to Flushing, he takes it as a challenge to show everyone how good of a shortstop he is.
And he has had himself a spectacular series. Botched bleach job.
That's the only thing he's done wrong this 3 days.
Jose Veras up in the bullpen for the Marlins. Dan Uggla, the batter, with 2 aboard. Uggla 1 for 4, doubled in a run in that big 6th inning for the Marlins. Two and one to Uggla. Gary Sanchez waiting on deck. Two one to Uggla, and a line drive base hit. Morrison will be held at 3rd, and the Marlins have the bases loaded with 1 out. Uggla's 2nd hit of the game. So Feliciano, a day after his 34th birthday and pitching for the first time in a week, having his struggles here in the ninth. And now Gabby Sanchez will step in. Sanchez 0 for 3 and a walk tonight. He has driven in a run in 6 straight games. He hasn't driven in a run tonight, so that streak is on the line. Sanchez's streak of 6 straight games with an RBI is the longest ever by a Marlins rookie. Their club record is 10 straight games with an RBI. Jorge Cantu did that earlier this year. In fact, he did it in the first 10 games of the season. Inside to Sanchez, 1-0.
Well, all these hitters today's game are all taught to get as deep in the box as they can, even if they're out of the box occasionally.
Overhead camera brought to you by PPG Pittsburgh Paints. 1-1 to Gabby Sanchez. Two and one. Pitcher spot is due up next for the Marlins. Hector Luna has come out on deck to be a pinch hitter. Got to get a guy named Luna in the game when it's a full moon.
That's right.
Line to center, and Sanchez keeps his RBI streak alive. Morrison comes in to score, and it's 10-4 Florida. Gabby Sanchez drives in a run for the 7th straight game, his 69th run batted into the season. The more he plays, the more he becomes prominent in the Rookie of the Year conversation.
Well, I don't know why he wouldn't be. He leads the world in just about everything. Hits, RBI. Short stroke from Gabby Sanchez, who looks like a different hitter than the first series when the Marlins came in here.
Jerry Manuel heading out to the mound. That's 6 runs down in the 9th, but he'll bring in Igarashi to try and get the final 2 outs of the inning. 10-4 Florida. We'll be right back.
Did not look as sharp as he did in Houston as he gave up a run on a couple of hits.
Bases loaded for the Marlins. Ramirez, Uggla, and Sanchez the base runners with 1 out. Hector Luna the pinch hitter. Luna, the former St. Louis Cardinal. First pitch swinging, pops one foul. Ike over near the railing, but it's out of play. 0-1. It's the 9th time this year that the Mets have allowed 10 or more runs, and what makes it even more painful is that the Mets had their offense going early in this game, scored 4 runs in the first 3 innings off Anibal Sanchez, and it could have been a whole lot more. Line drive double play, bad call at first, runner thrown out at third. Then the Marlins got a 2-run homer from Hanley Ramirez in the 4th, scored 7 in the 6th, and they haven't looked back. 1-1 to Luna. A loss tonight would drop the Mets back below 500 for the season. Chad Tracy out on deck to be a pinch hitter for Wes Helms.
Also dropped them a game and a half behind the Marlins, which in 4th place.
Mets were welcome in the Astros over the weekend. The Astros just swept a 4-game series in Philadelphia. Mets and Astros split 4 games last week in Houston. One-two from Igarashi. And Luna fouls it off. In Toronto tonight, another home run for Jose Bautista, his 41st.
Wow.
Could he hit 50? Yeah. What was his career high? 16 before this year?
Yeah.
It's a Brady Anderson kind of year. Or to go back a little further, a Davy Johnson kind of a year.
That's right. What did Davy hit? 41,
43,
43?
Yeah. With the Braves that one year?
Yeah, the three guys that hit 40 that year. The first baseman, Darrell Evans.
And, of course, Henry Aaron, the other. They were the first team ever to have 3 40 home run hitters. 2-2. Luna watches the splitter in the dirt, and it's a full count. Igarashi, the 5th Met pitcher of the night. Nice was charged with the first 7 runs, descends with 2, and Feliciano the 1 here in the 9th. 3-2 with the bases loaded. And Luna chops one to third. Wright gets the out at second. Castillo's relay not in time. That brings home a run. So David opting to go to second rather than home. And the Mets give up their 11th run as Ramirez comes in.
Well, David knows he's got to get rid of this ball quick. Nice try by Louis with the turn, but Luna can run.
Probably if he had to do it all over again, he would have gone home with that ball. Chad Tracy up as a pinch hitter for Wes Helms. When Hanley Ramirez went for blonde and wound up with red, Edwin Rodriguez just was joking that Ramirez was just trying to be like Chad Tracy.
Oh, that's right.
A natural redhead. Chad had a nice run for a few years with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Although I will say that moving forward, he's the kind of guy on a good team could be a good guy off the bench. Always been a good hitter.
By the way, Hanley said that he was going to fix the Dye job and get Vaughn. I don't think after the last couple of days he's going to do anything.
He's not changing it until he takes an offer.
I mean, after going 10 for 15 the last 3 days, the hair is staying right the way it is. One and 2 to Tracy. Davy Johnson, other than the 43 homers he had in 1973, his next biggest season, 18.
Wow.
In 1971 with the Orioles. Every once in a while you get these guys with these aberrational home run seasons, and Davy did it before there was any suspicion of untoward assistance.
He said he got some great advice on how to approach hitters from Henry Aaron. And also, that was a launching pad in Atlanta in those days.
Two to Tracy. He fouls it back. The other guy in that trio, Darrell Evans, is one of the overlooked power hitters in the game over the last 40 years.
He used to be able to spin on that fastball and also took advantage later in his career when he went to Detroit, that short porch in Detroit.
He had over 400 home runs in his career.
But Davey, the product of the most famous ball that did not go out of the ballpark, that little fly ball to left field.
Game 5. As Cleon Jones genuflected. Another 3-2 count for Igarashi. They are just spitting on that splitter. And they really have been all year.
Well, it's interesting watching Igarashi because, you know, he's the kind of guy, even though he's short of stature, comes out and he just tries to power past the hitters.
Strikes out Tracy with the high heat. That ends the inning, but the Marlins tack on 2, 11-4. free with IOTV. By Volkswagen. By Jacari Supply, official distributor of PPG Paint and proud sponsor of the New York Mets. By Hyundai, with quality that lets them offer America's best warranty, 10 years, 100,000 miles. By Hospital for Special Surgery. And by Lexus. Hector Luna stays in the game at third base for the Marlins, and on to pitch the ninth inning, Jose Veras.
29-year-old from the Dominican Republic. Saw time with the Yankees last year and also the Cleveland Indians. 22 of his 25 outings have been scoreless.
David Wright leads off in the last of the ninth inning, and David takes a strike. Wright delivered the keynote tonight with a 2-run homer in the first inning, a bomb off the facing of the second deck in left field. He's had a walk and a single since then, 2 for 3. Mets raced out to a 4-0 lead, but 11 unanswered runs by the Marlins has turned this into a laugher the other way. There's a strike, 1 and 2 to Wright, with Ike Davis and Jeff Francoeur to follow in the bottom of the ninth. Mets have left 11 runners on base tonight. 6 of them in the first 3 innings when they scored their 4 runs. The Cardinals have just rallied for 4 runs in the top of the ninth in Washington. They were down 8-5 in that game going to the 8th. They're now up 10-8. Three and 2, and these are rough times for the Nats. They're holding their breath on another MRI on Steven Strasburg that they should have the results of tomorrow.
Yeah, he had one, but this time they're going to inject some dye into his forearm so they get a little better look.
Taking his spot tonight, Jordan Zimmerman made his first start coming off Tommy John surgery tonight. I guess that's a positive sign.
Jordan Zimmerman was another #1 pick. We saw him pitch a game here in Citi Field a couple seasons ago, and it really turned our heads. Just threw strikes, threw hard. And this is only a year after Tommy John surgery. He's good to go.
Pitched 4 innings tonight. Got hit pretty hard. 5 runs, 7 hits, but just having him back is huge for the Nats. 3-2 to Wright, and he fouls another one. So with the Phillies losing today and the Giants not playing, if the Cardinals win, they'll be a half game behind the Giants for the National League wildcard league.
And 3 behind the Reds.
And Wright is on base again. Unbelievable. It's the 7th time tonight the Mets have drawn a leadoff walk. Let's check in with the guys in the studio, Chris Carlin and Bobby Ahita, to see what's coming up on Lincoln Mercury post-game live. All right, guys. Meanwhile, Ike Davis will keep working on the miracle. Ike's been on base 3 times tonight, 1 for 2, a pair of walks. And he takes low and away for ball 1. I can't get over this, that the Mets have drawn 7 leadoff walks tonight, and they're 7 runs behind. I wonder if team's ever done that. Issued 7 leadoff walks and won by 7.
And trounced the team.
Good off-speed pitch by Veras, 1-1.
Well, this is one of those games in the season where if you're even the most ardent supporter, you scratch your head. A game that really, when it got to 4-0, Nice was pitching the way he was pitching, and then both you and I in between innings, the bad call at first base by Brian Miller on the Tejada looked like an infield single with the bases loaded.
Well, the Mets were up 4-0, bases loaded, nobody out. The 8 and 9 hitters were retired. Reyes had been hurt the previous inning. Tejada hit a slow ground ball, was safe by a substantial margin, called out. And the Marlins began their comeback the next half inning on the Ramirez 2-run homer. Now, that doesn't mean that the Mets had to stop scoring when they kept throwing leadoff walks every inning.
And it also doesn't mean that they were going to win the ball game, because eventually they did give up 11 runs.
3-1 to Ike Davis. And back-to-back walks issued by Veras to start the bottom of the ninth. Well, that won't win him any friends in the dugout. That is 9 walks issued by Marlins pitching tonight. They've given up 9 walks, 10 hits, and a hit batsman. That's 20 base runners. But the Mets have scored only 4 runs.
You know, when you have a 7-run lead at this level of baseball, there's got to come a time that you should have the ability to be able to throw the ball over the plate and let the people hit it. And Veras has struggled with that with the first 2 hitters.
Nobody up in the Marlins bullpen. Jeff Francoeur, the batter, 2 for 3 and a walk tonight. He's driven in a run. And a slider on the outside corner, 0-1. Josh Tolley on deck. Knocked down by Hayes, 1-2. The Mets won the opening game of this series. Fell short last night. 7 runs down in the 9th tonight. This is the 18th rubber game that the Mets have played in a series this year. In the first 17, they've gone 5-12 in that game to decide a series. It's another one of those close but not quite numbers that define the Mets season. We talked earlier about their record in 1- and 2-run games. 28-43.
You know, I was talking to you before the game. I try to always look at, are the last few games when you're trying to get back in the race, are they manageable? You know, because if you get to a point where you got to do what the Rockies did, win 21 out of 22, well, you know, that's not manageable. That's, you know, partly luck, partly great play. But I thought I had put together the math of it all. And we'll watch this pitch to Francoeur.
Out to center field for Maben. Wright tags at second and moves over to third. That's the first out.
And the math of it all was such that if the Mets had won this game and won the rest of the series for the whole year, now it's manageable, right?
So taking 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 in every
the rest
series.
of the series, which is very difficult, but manageable. It's not 21 out of 22. Gets them to 88 wins. And that's a number that might not put you over the top, but it puts you in the question, you know, puts you in the conversation. But it's been these 1-run games and these rubber games that puts them in a bad way.
Here's Tolley, 1 for 3 tonight. The 9 walks by Marlins pitchers tonight, a season high. Not often you win 9. You walk 9 and win decisively.
You have to remember they are the organization where a pitcher has walked 9 and thrown a no-hitter.
That's an excellent point. That was A.J. Burnett, of course.
What do they have? They have 4 no-hitters, I believe.
Leiter, Kevin Brown, Sanchez, and Burnett. It's not quite the Houston Astros. Astros came into the league the same year as the Mets. The Astros have thrown 10 no-hitters.
Well, they had a number 34 there for a while. He was pretty good at it.
They also had Don Wilson, who's threw 2 of them. Mike Scott
to clinch the National League West
against the Giants in '86.
Will Clark with a little rollover piece, 4-3, or no, 3-1 maybe. The scorecard.
Double play ball to Uggla. This should end it. 4-6-3, and the Marlins take the rubber game of the 3-game series. After the Mets took a 4-0 lead, the Marlins score 11 unanswered runs to crush the Mets tonight, 11-4.
And it's one of those games, if you're sitting in the stands, everything went so right for the Mets early. Looked like a game they were going to take. You got to give a lot of credit to the Marlins, who've been so resilient in this ballpark. And Hanley Ramirez, 10 for 15 in the series. Couple of home runs. Line drive tonight of Jonathan Neese that started the comeback and the unanswered 11 runs by the Marlins.
The Mets drew 7 leadoff walks in this game, left 12 runners on base, squandered a host of opportunities, had some bad luck and some bad calls as well, but ultimately the Marlins with a 7-run 6th inning made all